It was raining hard that evening, the kind of downpour that made the streets glisten like mirrors and turned every shadow into something uncertain. Daniel clutched his daughter Emma's small hand as they hurried back from the grocery store, the plastic bags digging into his fingers. Life hadn't been easy since his wife passed away 3 years ago. Raising a 6-year-old alone on a mechanic's salary meant every day was a battle. Every dollar stretched thin. Yet Daniel walked with quiet determination, his love for Emma stronger than any hardship he faced. But that night, something happened that neither he nor Emma would ever forget. As they passed a sleek black car pulled over on the side of the road, Daniel noticed a woman slumped over the steering wheel. The headlights still burned through the sheets of rain, but the woman wasn't moving. Emma tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, is she okay?" Without hesitation, Daniel dropped his bags and ran to the car. Inside was a woman in her mid-40s, elegant but pale, clutching her chest as if every breath was her last. "Help, hospital," she gasped, her voice barely audible. Daniel didn't think twice. He scooped her into his arms and rushed her to his old truck. Rain soaked his clothes, but all he cared about was getting this stranger to safety. Emma sat in the back seat, frightened but watching her father with wide eyes, realizing again what kind of man he was, selfless, brave, and kind. At the hospital, Daniel stayed until the doctors confirmed the woman was stable. He didn't even know her name. Exhausted, he took Emma's hand and slipped quietly out into the storm, never expecting to see that woman again. But life has a way of surprising us. 2 weeks later, Daniel was under the hood of an old sedan at the small garage where he worked. His boss often reminded him that mechanics weren't meant to play heroes, that bills were more important than strangers. Daniel just smiled and kept working, though the stress of unpaid rent and Emma's mounting school needs weighed on him heavily. That afternoon, a black car, sleek, expensive, and familiar, pulled up to the shop. Daniel wiped his hands on a rag and stepped out curious. The window rolled down and there she was, the woman from that stormy night. Except now she wasn't pale and weak, she looked radiant, powerful, her eyes filled with determination. "I've been looking for you," she said softly. "You saved my life." Daniel was speechless. Emma, who had been coloring in the corner of the garage, recognized her too and ran over. "That's the lady, Daddy?" The woman smiled and bent down. "Yes, sweetheart. I owe your daddy everything." Her name was Catherine Hale, a millionaire businesswoman known in the city for her empire of hotels and charitable foundations. But despite all her wealth, she confessed that night in the rain, she had never felt more helpless until Daniel came along. Catherine insisted on taking Daniel and Emma to dinner to thank them. At first Daniel refused. He wasn't used to handouts or attention. But Emma's eyes sparkled with excitement, and so he agreed. That dinner changed everything. Over plates of warm food that Daniel could rarely afford, Catherine asked about their lives. She listened as Daniel spoke about losing his wife, about working long hours, about wanting to give Emma a better life, but constantly falling short. For the first time in years, he opened up, his voice breaking when he admitted, "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing her." Catherine reached across the table and touched his hand. "You're not failing her. You're teaching her what true strength looks like." Emma smiled at her father, and Daniel had to blink back tears. But life wasn't a fairy tale. A week later, Daniel's landlord gave him an eviction notice. He had fallen behind on rent again. The garage was cutting back on hours, and he was at risk of losing his job. He didn't tell Catherine. His pride wouldn't let him. But Catherine was sharper than he realized. One evening, when she dropped by to visit Emma with books and toys, she saw the worn-out apartment, the leaking ceiling, and the weight in Daniel's tired eyes. She didn't say anything then, but her heart ached. Daniel faced another challenge too, his daughter's health. Emma had been coughing for weeks, and the free clinic had recommended further tests. But tests cost money, and Daniel simply didn't have it. He tried to hide his worry, but Catherine noticed the way he held Emma closer, the way he stared at bills late at night. Catherine wasn't the kind of woman to sit back. 2 weeks after their first dinner, she showed up at the garage again, not as a customer, but with a proposal. "Daniel," she began, "I need someone I can trust to oversee the maintenance of my hotel properties. It's a big step up from this garage. The pay is more than fair, and it comes with housing for you and Emma." Daniel froze. It sounded too good to be true. He shook his head. "I don't want charity. I don't want Emma growing up thinking we were given everything. This isn't charity, Catherine said firmly. This is me giving a good man an opportunity he deserves. Still, Daniel hesitated. His pride warred with his desperation. That night, as he tucked Emma into bed, she whispered, "Daddy, maybe it's okay to let someone help us. You always help everyone else." Her words broke the wall around his heart. Daniel took the job. The next few months were unlike anything he had ever known. For the first time, he and Emma lived in a safe home. Emma was enrolled in a better school. Her cough was treated, and Daniel no longer lay awake wondering if tomorrow would bring another eviction notice. He worked hard, proving himself at Catherine's hotels, earning the respect of her staff. But more than the financial security, something deeper grew. Catherine and Emma became close. Emma saw in her a maternal figure she had long missed, and Catherine, who had no children of her own, found joy in Emma's laughter. As for Daniel, he struggled to accept the warmth blooming in his chest whenever Catherine was near. One evening, Catherine invited them to a gala at her hotel. Daniel arrived in a borrowed suit, feeling out of place among the glittering crowd. But when Catherine introduced him as the man who saved my life, Daniel stood taller. He realized then that his worth wasn't in the size of his paycheck, but in the strength of his character. The challenges didn't end. Life always has storms. There were whispers from Catherine's wealthy peers who disapproved of her spending time with a mechanic. Daniel sometimes battled his old doubts, wondering if he truly belonged in her world. But each time Catherine reminded him, "Daniel, you didn't just save my life, you changed it. You showed me that kindness is more valuable than all the money in the world." Slowly Daniel began to believe it. Emma flourished in school. Their little family grew closer, and Daniel discovered that accepting help didn't make him weak, it made him stronger. 2 years later, as he stood in the backyard of the home Catherine had helped him secure, watching Emma play while Catherine set the dinner table, Daniel whispered a silent prayer of gratitude. Life had once seemed hopeless, but a stormy night, an act of compassion, and the courage to accept kindness had rewritten their story. In the end, this is not just a story about a poor single dad saving a millionaire. It's a story about how kindness can change lives, both the one who gives and the one who receives. It reminds us that no matter how dark life gets, hope can come from the most unexpected places. Dear viewers, what do you think about Daniel's story? Do you believe that kindness always finds its way back to us? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this story touched your heart, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Join our family here on Be Kind Always, where we spread stories that inspire hope, love, and compassion. Because sometimes one act of kindness can change everything.